When you walk into a new house, you expect silence. You expect empty rooms that slowly fill with your laughter, your furniture, your life. But what if that silence is broken before you've even settled in? What if the house whispers back? This is a story of a family who thought they had found their dream home, only to discover that beneath it lay something far more sinister. A basement that seemed alive, whispering secrets no one wanted to hear. The Carter family moved into the old brick house at the edge of town on a crisp autumn morning. It was perfect on the surface. Tall windows, a wide porch, an apple tree that bent gently over the yard. But from the beginning, there was one thing that felt off. The basement door. It was painted a dull gray, different from the rest of the house, as though it had been replaced more than once. And when you touched the knob, it was always cold. Freezing cold, even in summer. At first, they laughed it off. It was just an old house. Old houses creak, they breathe. But within a week, the laughter was gone. One night, Emma Carter, the mother, went down to the basement to find a box of winter coats. She stopped halfway down the stairs because she swore she heard voices. Faint, hushed whispers, like two people speaking softly just out of earshot. She froze, listening. The air felt damp, and her breath came out in small, trembling clouds. But when she switched on the light, the whispers stopped. The basement was empty. She told herself it was the pipes. The house was old, after all. Yet, when she carried the coats back up, she realized her hands were shaking. A few days later, their 12-year-old son, Michael, refused to sleep in his room. He told his parents he could hear someone calling his name from the basement at night. A voice, thin and stretched, as if spoken through walls. "Michael, come down," he mimicked in a low tone, his face pale. His father scolded him for making up stories, but Emma felt a cold dread settle inside her. The whispers grew bolder. At first, they only came at night. Then they began in the afternoons, curling up the staircase, faint but unmistakable. Sometimes it was a woman crying. Other times, it was hurried words like warnings. But no matter how hard they listened, they could never catch the full sentences. It was always just out of reach, as though the house itself didn't want them to understand. One evening, Mr. Carter decided to put an end to it. He stormed down into the basement with a flashlight, determined to prove there was nothing there. Emma waited at the top of the stairs, her heart pounding. The flashlight beam danced across the concrete floor, the old wooden beams, the shelves stacked with dusty jars. Then it stopped. In the far corner of the basement, half buried in shadow, was a wooden door they hadn't noticed before. It was smaller than a normal door, barely tall enough for a child to walk through. The paint was peeling, and a rusty padlock hung loosely from its latch. "Did you know this was here?" he called up. Emma shook her head, fear pressing against her ribs. The padlock snapped easily when he struck it with a hammer. The door groaned open, and a smell rolled out, damp earth, mold, and something metallic like rusted iron. Behind it was a narrow passageway leading into darkness. They should have closed it. They should have sealed it that night and never looked back. But curiosity has a way of pulling people deeper. For the next few days, the family avoided the basement. Yet the whispers grew louder, clearer. They were no longer muffled. They were angry now, rising like a storm. At night, Emma heard them right outside her bedroom door, and Michael swore he saw shadows moving at the bottom of the stairs, even when no one was there. Finally, unable to take any more, Emma went back down alone. The basement light flickered above her, buzzing faintly. She stood before the small door, her chest tight. The whispers grew louder, like dozens of voices speaking at once, layered over each other, impossible to separate. They were calling her name now. Her hand trembled as she lifted the flashlight and stepped inside the passage. The ground was dirt, damp and soft. The walls pressed in close. After only a few steps, she saw it. A small, bricked-off room. The remains of old furniture lay scattered. An overturned chair, scraps of cloth, something that looked like chains bolted to the wall. And there, scratched deep into the brick, were words that made her blood run cold. "Do not listen." Before she could move, the whispers swelled, deafening. Her flashlight flickered and died, plunging her into darkness. And in that darkness, something breathed, close enough that she felt it stir her hair. She screamed, stumbling backward until she burst out of the passage and slammed the small door shut. The family left the house that night. They didn't pack, they didn't explain, they just drove away, leaving everything behind. Neighbors say the house still stands, though no one has lived there since. Some claim you can hear whispers if you walk past on quiet night, leaking from the basement windows. Others say the house waits, patient, for the next family to move in. Perhaps the most chilling part? The Carters later discovered that in the late 1800s, the house belonged to a man who was rumored to keep people locked in his basement. His victims were never found. But maybe, just maybe, they were never able to leave. Some homes hold memories. Others hold secrets. And some never let go. So if you ever find yourself in a basement that whispers your name, ask yourself this. Are you alone? Or are you just the next chapter in a story that never ends?